Hawaii. You think you know it. Pineapples, beaches, maybe a surfboard or two. But the real story, it's not some sunny postcard. It's a calculated theft, a kingdom ripped away by greed and power plays, buried under lies they don't teach in school. How did a sovereign nation get swallowed by the U.S.? Buckle up, because this history is wild, dark, and anything but aloha. In this video, we explore how the U.S. stole Hawaii. In the late 1700s, Hawaii was a full-fledged kingdom, as legit as any nation. The Kanaka Maoli, the native people, had a culture rooted in the land and sea. They navigated thousands of miles of ocean, using only stars, grew taro to sustain thriving communities, and governed with a system that balanced power and tradition. By 1810, King Kamehameha I unified the islands into a single kingdom. Recognized by global players like Britain, France, and the U.S., Hawaii had its own constitution, currency, and flag, a nation as legitimate as any. Enter the Americans. In the 1820s, missionaries arrived not just to preach, but to reshape everything. They banned traditional practices like hula, calling them heathen, and pushed Western education and values. Their descendants, born in Hawaii but American at heart, saw opportunity. By the mid-1800s, these Haiole foreign families controlled massive sugarcane plantations, turning sacred land into profit machines. Men like Sanford Dole and Lauren Thurston weren't just businessmen. They were plotting a takeover. The turning point came with King Kalakaua in the 1870s. He wanted to preserve Hawaiian culture and strengthen the monarchy, but the plantation elite had other plans. In 1887, they forced him to sign the Bayonet Constitution at gunpoint. It stripped the king's power, gave voting rights only to wealthy landowners, mostly white, and tilted the scales toward American interests. Kalakaua was a king in name only, humiliated on his own throne. When Kalakaua died in 1891, his sister, Queen Liliʻuokalani, took over. She was fierce, determined to restore Hawaiian sovereignty and rewrite the Constitution to empower her people. But the plantation barons, backed by U.S. money and muscle, smelled a threat. In 1893, they struck. A group called the Committee of Safety, led by Thurston and Dole, staged a coup. They claimed it was to protect American lives, but it was a sham, pure power grab. The U.S. didn't just watch. John Stevens, the U.S. minister in Hawaii, sent 150 Marines from the USS Boston to Honolulu, claiming it was for public safety. These troops didn't fight. They just stood there, guns ready, intimidating the Queen's small royal guard. Liliʻuokalani, to avoid bloodshed, surrendered her throne under protest, believing the U.S. government would see the injustice and step in. She was wrong. The coup leaders set up a provisional government with Sanford Dole as president. It was a front to push for U.S. annexation. President Grover Cleveland investigated and called it what it was, an illegal overthrow driven by American greed. His 1893 report, the Blount Report, laid out the facts. U.S. troops and diplomats had backed an unlawful coup. But Congress dragged its feet, and Cleveland's term ended. The plotters waited, knowing time was on their side. By 1898, the Spanish-American War changed everything. The U.S. wanted Hawaii's strategic Pacific position, especially Pearl Harbor, to dominate the region. President William McKinley, unlike Cleveland, was pro-annexation. The plotters seized their moment. They pushed through the Newlands Resolution, a shady piece of legislation that annexed Hawaii without a treaty or a vote from the Hawaiian people. Over 40,000 native Hawaiians signed petitions against annexation, but their protests were ignored. On August 12, 1898, the Hawaiian flag came down, the American flag went up, and the kingdom was gone. Queen Liliʻuokalani never stopped fighting. She spent years in Washington, D.C., lobbying for justice, writing her story, and demanding the U.S. right its wrong. After a failed 1895 counter-rebellion by Hawaiian loyalists, she was arrested and held in Iolani Palace for 8 months. Even then, she fought with dignity, using diplomacy over violence. But the U.S. had what it wanted: Hawaii's land, its ports, its future. The fallout was brutal. Native Hawaiians lost over 1.8 million acres of land. Crown and communal territories seized for plantations, military bases, and later, tourism. The Hawaiian language was banned in schools, and by the 1970s, fewer than 2% of native Hawaiians could speak it fluently. The overthrow didn't just kill a kingdom, it fractured a culture. Native Hawaiians, once the heart of their homeland, became strangers in it, marginalized as outsiders profited. The U.S. profited big. Hawaii became a territory in 1900, then a state in 1959, but the process was never clean. The 1898 annexation violated international law, which required a treaty for such a move. No treaty was ever signed. Native Hawaiians were never given a real say. In 1993, the U.S. admitted this in the Apology Resolution signed by President Bill Clinton. It called the overthrow illegal and acknowledged the harm done, but it offered no land, no reparations, no real accountability, just words. Let's zoom out. How did this theft happen? It wasn't one moment, but a slow, deliberate grind. Missionaries laid the groundwork, eroding Hawaiian culture. Their descendants, the plantation elite, built wealth and power on stolen land. The U.S. government, through diplomats and troops, tipped the scales when it mattered. Each step was calculated, from the bayonet constitution to the Marines' landing to the sham annexation. This wasn't a conquest with cannons, it was a takeover by cunning, cloaked in the language of progress. The roots go back further. The 1875 Reciprocity Treaty tied Hawaii's economy to the U.S., letting sugar flow tax-free but giving America a foothold in Pearl Harbor. This deal enriched the Haole elite, who used their wealth to influence politics. By the time Kalakaua took the throne, the kingdom was already on a leash. Liliʻuokalani's resistance was the final straw. Her push for a new constitution wasn't radical. It was about giving her people a voice. The annexation in 1898 was the nail in the coffin, but it wasn't inevitable. Native Hawaiians resisted at every turn. The U.S. didn't win Hawaii through fair play. It took it through manipulation, force, and disregard for a people's right to self-rule. So next time you hear about Hawaii, don't think of just beaches or vacations. Think of a kingdom stolen, a people silenced, and a fight that's still alive. The U.S. took Hawaii not because it was right, but because it could. And that's a truth we can't unlearn. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up, share it with friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this.